both of you work in centralized functions in your media organizations that cut across the brands. And a lot of what you do is educate, best practices, how your organizations embrace automation. So if you are each successful, or as you are each successful, do you put yourselves out of a job? Is that success?
It's funny, it's the Josh Jacobs quote on Accu when he talks about that in 5 years he shouldn't have a job. Right. Just building out that integration, because it's a capability that everybody will have as part of their sales tool. You know, talking about the recruiting and team building as we move forward. The emphasis on data and on quants is absolutely shifting, and fairly dramatically, the way that people are approaching talent recruitment and implementation.
And I was chatting this morning with a couple of my colleagues, and what is the evolution of the current job function of ad ops and planning, and where does that go? And I really see it as going into a professional services role, right? Because if you start implementing technology such as this at large scale across the board in a market, think about, I used to work on the trading floors after DoubleClick. That technology, there's still today, they're running technology as 20 years old in some cases. There's always going to be a need for the support of the technology and the iterative solutions that come from that technology, like a Lightbox or like a different creative format that's coming from this tech. This tech will be a foundation for evolution.
Okay. Now, I have to ask one question for Randall, which is he was making fun of the words programmatic and native. Is native going programmatic? Rob, do you want to start on this? I mean, isn't it? It's just it's happening.
It's interesting when people talk about native. It's the idea of branded content and the idea that it is the new thing. It's if you go back to advertorial in like the 30s, it's just a new way to look at it.
That's right. And
there's a new capability. So I think really smart, custom content that really connects to consumers and breaks through that is really tough to automate, in my opinion. And I just think that, frankly, on our side of the business, we do so much on the great marketing side of it, and these really integrated marketing programs that go across all screens and are a really deep experience for consumers. I think it's really hard to kind of automate the biggest version of it, but you can automate a transactional version of it that maybe in the right environment, certainly, and how you kind of, going back to how you define it, it probably can work on some level.
Are we gonna automate native, Alanna?
I think, to Rob's point, I think native is a buzzword to solve a problem for right now, which is how do you pull in content into a branded environment and make it work for advertisers? I think programmatically pulling in content and matching it to a template, I don't think that's needed, quite frankly. I think what is needed is a rationalization of every screen. And by screen, I don't mean mobile versus video versus tablet versus display. It's publishers have a presence now on their sites, but they also have a home, if you will, in social. So how do you combine a tactic for content across all of those media, right? So Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, even Snapchat, everything, into your site. That's native, right? At the end of the day, if you can have your content triangulate, if you will, so the triangle before, across all of those screens and make that work for a marketer, that's huge.
Okay, all right.
In situ.
So the answer is native is going programmatic. Watch this.
Watch
this space, and any native advertising as it achieves scale will be we will automate it. That's right.
Down them.
That's right. Okay. Unified negotiation. So again, and you guys have alluded to this, but I want to get into this one a little bit, which is. It used to be a couple years ago with all the auction, there was no direct orders, all remnant, and all of us were off on the uncool kids' lunch table, and people were throwing butters at us. But now, as automation has kind of crept its way up and is now wrapped around direct buying and selling as well, what we see among our media owners is more unified negotiation. So whether it's the investment team or the trading director that's sitting with your sellers, it's a more holistic discussion across bespoke, across orders, even across auction. So you and I talked a little bit about that. Give some color about that, and then I want Rob to talk about the upfronts a little bit.
Sure. So I think that the different tactics you take in a media plan just translate back to the buyer's expectations and needs, right? So for now we can do auction plus direct and reserve in one media plan. And so it could be that a CPG client wants to find audiences, and that would be best suited for an auction marketplace or a private deal marketplace. Fine. That's part of the plan. That's on there, as well as the tentpole takeovers, homepage takeovers, reserves, whatever. I think the holistic plan just really speaks to each tactic in the overall overarching advertiser goal, even for luxury clients. Luxury clients, historically, we've always done tentpole, right? Huge takeovers, video ads, etc. There's also an e-commerce part to that we're now adding on to the plans, which is new for us. So we can actually now start looking at the funnel as a luxury publisher in a very new and holistic way, and that's been a game changer for our conversations with our clients. So that's
Okay. The upfronts.
For the upfronts, actually, I think we had hoped on the media publisher side to leverage a little bit of the automated or programmatic money in the 2013-14 upfront. And I think we're probably a little bit ahead. We had a few partners that were able to kind of participate on a significant level, but I don't think the marketplace necessarily supported it or was ready for it. We've seen a significant change this year where many of our agency partners are coming and leveraging it all together, a more unified approach, to your point. And it's interesting because, and the idea that everything old is new again, I think a lot of this on the data targeting side reminds me of the optimizers of the 90s. And that was going to be the way that all business transacted. And the idea of leveraging off of or decisioning off of a MRI panel or a Simmons panel to kind of get more closer to a consumer, this is just a much more accurate way to do that and a little bit more sophisticated. So I think that kind of approach is not that far from how we've traditionally done business.